It's so dark. It was amazing! Oh wait! There's more! It was awful! I'm back! CGI shit!
I rest my case.
It was fucking horrible!
Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome back to another opening night. This one's a new one, actually. It's a Disney Plus streaming one. I figured I would kind of continue my Star Wars themed stuff, but talk about something I was not expecting. That, of course, being the follow-up to the very successful documentary series by Joe Johnston, Light and Magic. Yes, they have a Season 2. I just managed to sit through the entire, over 3-hour documentary, follow-up to the first one, and I was not expecting this. I thought the first season was a run-and-done deal, 5 episodes, running at about 4.5 hours max, and, maybe even a little bit more than that, but honestly, I guess they had more material to work with, so they were, I guess, commissioned to do a Season 2, because Season 1 did so well. Joe Johnston came back to direct. I didn't know that Joe Johnston did the first one. I kind of did. Joe Johnston, as you guys know, has worked with ILM since the beginning. He directed Jurassic Park 3, The Rocketeer, Captain America: The First Avenger, Jumanji. This guy's directed a lot of great stuff, and he's worked personally with ILM on a lot of things. And this one, as a sequel to the first one, picks up where we left off with essentially the digital revolution, with Jurassic Park being the mainstay where it really revolutionized and changed the way special effects are done. No longer do we use these practical model miniatures. Everything was done in a computer. And this one picks up on that and is not just a lot more dramatic, not just a lot more interesting in what was going on behind the scenes at ILM. Not only is a lot more revealed and finally kind of talked about that they've kind of buried for a while, but it's also a very emotional one. And what I mean by that is very interesting. So this one, again, picks up in the 90s. We've already been through the digital revolution of Jurassic Park onwards. This one mainly focuses on a new interesting perspective on the making of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Ironically, given we're at the tail end of it, we're working on episode 3 right now, and I feel this is appropriate to talk about this second season. So it focuses on George's massive ambitions to get the prequels going, and how ILM was wondering, hey, when are we going to do episodes 1, 2, and 3, George? George was like, I'm gonna wait for the technology to get better. With tests, essentially, other movies using digital technology were tests. The Abyss, Jurassic Park, Twister, all that stuff. And down to, what was funny is Casper, of all things, and Dragonheart, where the light bulb in George's head to say, now we can do the prequels. And I think it's great that Dragonheart was the catalyst for that. Even though that was mostly Phil Tippett, it was ILM who did all the CG shots for Dragonheart, and that's a great movie, by the way, with Sean Connery. When George saw that, he's like, okay, we can make Star Wars now. I think that's amazing. I didn't know that. I think that's cool that that was finally the push. He knew with Jurassic Park we were there. But with Dragonheart, he said, okay, now we can do digital creatures, and thus began the process of the Phantom Menace. And we see how much Phantom Menace actually had to pull off not just digital characters, digital environments, digital compositing, but also digital, like, elements, like dust, water, and so on, had to be revolutionized with other projects. Namely, Twister gets a nice mention here as one of the films that really pioneered the digital elements regime of ILM, and then also Water with, ironically enough, The Perfect Storm. I love the fact that that movie almost didn't make it because of that one shot we see in all the posters for The Perfect Storm, where it's the wave capsizing the boat. That's amazing that that was the catalyst for that. And we also see it from different perspectives of different people who came into ILM. And actually, the return of people that we have not seen since the original interviews on the DVD. Namely, Rick McCallum is back, and yeah, he's gotten old. He's up there with George. He's still feisty as ever. He's still talking about it, and it's cool that he feels like he can finally come out on a bunch of shit, because people described him apparently as like a mob boss. I'm like, damn, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew he was a pretty heavy producer. I've heard in real life he's a very nice guy, but to know he had that kind of business thing, it's like, damn. Apparently there's a story, they were talking about the effects budget for ILM on Phantom Menace. ILM wanted $111 million. They felt that was how much. And then Rick McCallum just slapped a little note and said, $64 million, take it or leave it. And ILM was like, okay, that's all we got. I thought was interesting. That was cool to see Rick McCallum back to talk about, like, now, like, 25, 30 years later on the prequels. But then on top of that, I didn't know he kind of disappeared for a while. I knew he did. I'll explain this in the story. There's a funny, interesting story to this, is, Rob Coleman, the animation director on the prequels, who did all the animation for Jar Jar and directed, kind of really got down what the character animation was for all three prequels. And there's a funny story to that. So, I was actually, in 2010, I went on a trip to Hollywood, California. And my parents actually surprised me because we went to Lucasfilm. We were supposed to apparently meet Rob Coleman. Now, the reason for that was because Rob's brother is friends with my dad. My dad knows his brother, and they were going to try to arrange something. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for two reasons. One, timing was a little off, but we did get to enjoy the Lucasfilm lobby, and we saw the Yoda fountain, and we actually saw this beautiful full-size sculpture of Willis O'Brien animating King Kong in the Empire State Building. It's spectacular. But with that being said, the other reason why Rob Coleman was not available, because at that point, he had left ILM to go work on Happy Feet. Which I think is hysterical. Like, I'm like, dang, I'm gonna be real, I didn't really like those movies, but I think that's just such bull, man. Rob, you belong at ILM. But it's cool to see him back. We haven't seen him since the prequel documentaries, and he looks like he's like a little afraid to talk about things now. Like, you can tell he's very nervous talking about it. Like, him and Rick, very nervous to talk about this stuff years later, especially after the public backlash with the prequels, which leads us to another person who they bring in. And I was like, oh my god, they actually brought him in. Okay, this is going to be interesting. They brought in Ahmed Best to talk in a bit more detail, not just about creating Jar Jar, but some other stuff I didn't know about. I didn't know he was a martial artist. I didn't know he was a stage performer. But one thing that episode 2 did, the second episode of the season, it actually opens with saying this episode contains discussions about certain sensitive things. And I'm like, oh, I think I know where we're going with this. Because if you guys don't know, Ahmed Best has always discussed about, after the backlash of Jar Jar, how he attempted to, I don't know how to word this on YouTube, I guess unalive himself, and which is like, nobody should ever go through that at all. And if you go through that, definitely there are places you can go to get help, but I didn't realize, this is the first time I think Ahmed Best actually opened up about it, and how detailed it was. And I was actually on the verge of crying. Hearing his story, I'm like, yeah, listen, us fans have to take responsibility. We treated him like shit, and that was not fair. But what's interesting is to still see George Lucas still on protection mode, because everybody has tried to go after him for Jar Jar, and George Lucas is like, it's interesting to get his perspective, because he's always talked about how he's always pushed away the racism and all that, and I only made a guess when I did my Phantom Menace review, I guess in a way. Like, I knew there was some rumor about him basing it on, but he finally confirmed, yeah, I based it on Buster Keaton. Jar Jar was based on Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. I'm like, that's perfect. You could see how that was the resource of information, and apparently George and Ahmed actually spent a day watching Buster Keaton movies, and I'm like, that's awesome. But what's also interesting is to see new behind-the-scenes documentary footage we've never seen. Like, the secretary of Lucasfilm getting all the first reviews, rushes up to George and Rick to show them, and you just see this look of, okay, here goes the reviews, and oh. Cut, you gotta see part 2, and the backlash of Phantom Menace, and you could tell that, like, you could tell their faces, oh, we're in trouble. And apparently there was, like, stories about how, like, Rob had Coleman had told George, they don't like Jar Jar. George, what do we do? And he's like, well, did they criticize the animation? No. Did they criticize the effects? No, they love the effects. Then you did your job. I never heard that perspective before. I thought that was interesting. And on top of that, you know, obviously Ahmed and everybody was very concerned. And with George, he said, give it a couple of years and you will see a change in perspective. Because he even said, like, people hated 3PO. And I'm like, yeah, I can see why. 3PO was kind of annoying, but I get his point. And then we see that cycle. George was correct back in 99. That 20 years later, people would appreciate it, and we have. We come to appreciate it. We see the full circle, and that was a nice closure to the Jar Jar thing that happened at the time. With episode 2 is interesting because there was some stuff I'm shocked that they brought up, is that Rob Coleman was nervous as hell about how they were going to make Yoda fight in Attack of the Clones. And this is something I thought this was the coolest thing. So, Jar Jar is a weeb. Jar Jar's Bizarre Adventures confirmed. Ahmed Best helped in making Yoda fight. Because he had brought Rob Coleman over one day, because he had asked Rob, hey, how's the Yoda fight going? And Rob's like, I have no fucking idea. So Ahmed Best is like, come with me. And they spend a day watching anime. I'm talking Gundam, Ninja Scroll, Fist of the North Star, probably, and a lot of, like, Jet Li and Bruce Lee movies, and they were literally watching it, and they said, oh shit, that's Yoda. So the fact that Yoda's fighting style and shit is based on anime, it just confirms that everybody at ILM is a weeb. George Lucas, everybody is a weeb, and it's like, guys, why didn't you open up about that? When we needed you in the 2000s, anime was the shit! I love it! I love that Jar Jar's a weeb. You will never get me to think otherwise. Now I want, like, Kawaii Jar Jar, Jar Jar Miku. Fans, just go crazy with Jar Jar anime. I want that. In fact, Lucasfilm, get them a Star Wars Visions. Make a Jar Jar anime series. I will watch the hell out of it. But that was awesome. And it obviously ends with more with Revenge of the Sith and talks about War of the Worlds. But then there's some other stuff. Like, apparently after Revenge of the Sith, Lucas sold the practical division off. Everybody was laid off because everything was going digital. But then on top of that, ILM admitted they were in, like, they had rivals when the digital age came in, and they even flat out admitted, yeah, Weta was fucking us over. Weta was our biggest competitor. Like, Weta and ILM was the equivalent of Nintendo and Sega in the 90s. Clashing rivals in special effects. It's crazy. And the fact that they almost worked on Avatar, they tried with Cameron. Cameron's like, I don't like this. I'm gonna go move over to Weta. It's like, damn. And you had just worked with them on Terminator 2. That's insane. So there's just so much that happens with this, and I really like this follow-up documentary. Are we gonna get a season 3? Probably not, and that's a shame. I think this is a really good series to keep going. However, being very impressed with this documentary in particular, there's another one coming up on Jaws' 50th anniversary by National Geographic. It is going to be on Disney+. I will probably watch that, because that sounds like a really good new, fresh take on the making of Jaws we have not seen yet. So call me excited, but with ILM Season 2, Light and Magic, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought this was a great time, and I thought it was fantastic. I'm gonna give it like a solid 9 out of 10. This was great. My memory's running low on this, but very quickly, let me know what you guys think about Light and Magic Season 2 in the comments below. Support our Patreon and so on. And until the next video, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms signing off. Go check this out. It's a great series. Have a good time. My memory's done. I'll see you later. Bye! Sorry to rush so quick.
Thank you.